Welcome back, everybody. 9:40 here in Los Angeles. Using defiant, fiery and combative language, US President Donald Trump sent an apocalyptic warning to North Korea, at the same time pushing his America First message to the United Nations. He referred to US sovereignty 21 times, insisting strong nations rather than international institutions are the key to a peaceful future. But the speech will be most remembered for Mr. Trump's threat to North Korea.
On behalf of the General Assembly.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
After the speech, the president tweeted, "A great and important day at the United Nations. Met with leaders of many nations who agree with much or all of what I stated in my speech." Joining us now for more on this, Ian Lee, live in Seoul, South Korea, and here in Los Angeles, political analyst Peter Mathews. Ian, first to you. Clearly the president was trying to ridicule or belittle Kim Jong-un. North Koreans don't usually take particularly well to that. So given that this was at a whole new level by the president in front of the United Nations, how is Pyongyang expected to react?
Well, we're expecting them to up their rhetoric as well with their own fiery brand that we've seen time after time again. And you wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of missile test or some sort of action from the North as a response, something that they've done in the past to show that they are serious about this. You know, the interesting thing, too, was the reaction from the South Koreans to that. You know, the South Korean president's spokesman came out. They praised it as being unprecedentedly long, showing that the United States was serious about North Korea. They also said that denuclearization is the only path and that strong sanctions and pressure is the way to get there. Also said that there's close collaboration between the two countries. The one thing that was missing, though, from their statement is any mention of war or a military option. And the only time we've heard about a military option really is in passing. Yesterday we heard from the defense minister who said that they want diplomacy and dialogue and that a military option is just a supporting element, John.
Yeah, I thought that statement from on behalf of the South Korean president, I thought they chose their words very carefully with that statement. But Peter, to you, to be fair, Donald Trump is not the first person who's used the term rocket man. Back in 2006, The Economist magazine used it to refer to Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. But it is one thing for a magazine to use the term rocket man. It seems it's another thing altogether when it's the President of the United States addressing a world body at the United Nations General Assembly. It has a whole new different meaning and connotations, right?
It's totally against convention in any way and norms, and it can be it's very provocative and demeaning. In front of a world body addressing the whole world, to call the leader of a country, whether he's a dictator or not, which we know that he is, to call him Rocket Man after a rock and roll song by Elton John. That's demeaning.
And this is a leader who seems insecure and young in and of himself.
To begin with,
yeah,
right, yeah. Right. He's 32 years old, right? Something like that.
Yeah, well, we don't exactly know, but we believe,
approximately early 30s. And you know, here's Donald Trump, 70 years old, and he's never been in politics before, and he's acting very inexperienced. And in front of the United Nations, it was uncalled for, in my view.
Ian, back to you. The U.S. president also slammed the Iran nuclear deal. He hinted he would rip it up. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, he told CNN that's not a good idea, especially when it comes to dealing with North Korea. I want to play an extended clip here of an interview that Christiane Amanpour did with Emmanuel Macron. Listen to this.
Now, I think it would be a big mistake. I think if President... I don't say that this Iran deal, the nuclear deal with Iran, is the alpha and omega of everything about how to deal with Iran. If President Trump considers it's not sufficient, I do agree with that. We have this deal. I think that the outcome of this deal is that now we have a monitoring process with the international agency following the situation, and I think that it's better than nothing. Okay? Why? Because if we stop with this deal, if we just stop with the nuclear agreement, so we will enter into a situation very similar to the North Korean situation before what happened this summer. So I think it would be a big mistake. Now, this deal has to be completed. And probably I will try to convince President Trump that the best way to address his concerns regarding Iran is to work into that direction. First, we have to work in order to have a monitoring process on ballistic missiles and ballistic activity of Iran. That's a concern. That's a concern for the whole region. We have to work on it, and we need a new agreement. And we can work on sanctions and agreements on this ballistic side. And second, we have to complete the 2015 nuclear agreement with Iran for the period post-2025, because this agreement just covers till 2025 the situation.
So, Ian, the point a lot of people have been making out of this is, why would the North Koreans agree to a diplomatic solution with the United States if there's this risk that that diplomatic solution gets torn up like it could do with the Iranians? That assumes, of course, they want to give up their nuclear weapons. Some have also speculated that this speech at the UN by the president will only, force the North Koreans to step up the development of their nuclear and missile program. Is that a view shared in the region?
Here's the thing. North Korea has said that their nuclear and missile program is designed to protect the regime and protect them against the United States, who they see as a threat. And they look at countries like Iraq under Saddam Hussein and Libya under Gaddafi. Those countries, those leaders ousted by the United States, gave up their weapons of mass destruction. And so they look now at Iran. Iran came to the negotiating table. They negotiated with the United States, the other members of the UN Security Council, and Germany to come up with this deal. And if the United States backs out of this deal without any reason, strong concrete reason, and if other countries stick with this deal, then it brings into question the word of the United States and their credibility. And so the North Koreans will just point to that as well as reasons they don't want to go to the negotiating table with the Americans, because they'll say they just can't be trusted. So the North Koreans yesterday were watching that part of the speech also very closely to see if the Americans will stick to a deal they already signed to.
Peter, I just want to get to one thing that the Democrat Senator Barbara Feinstein said. She was one of many people who were critical of this address by the president. Here's part of her statement. The goals of the United Nations are to foster peace and promote global cooperation. Today, the president used it as a stage to threaten war. It seems that the world was waiting for US President Donald Trump to turn up on that stage, maybe soften the message like he did for NATO. Instead, they got candidate Donald Trump from last year's campaign. This was very much about, it was for the base, it was for home politics.
It was, and it's unfortunate because this was a golden opportunity for Donald Trump to be a statesperson, to actually reduce the tensions by offering something to the world and to North Korea, saying we are willing to work with this and to reduce tensions and prevent any kind of a miscalculation or a war starting by miscalculation. He didn't do it. He took that belligerent attitude, campaigning again, appealing to his America First base, which is completely out of whack with what all the other allies feel and what the world feels, that we should, at the United Nations, we should be a cooperative institution that should help us reduce the tensions, and he didn't do that at all. Yeah. Golden opportunity missed.
Yeah.
Maybe intentionally. Yeah. Another one.
Well,
we don't know why.
It almost sounded as Steve Bannon wrote the speech.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Peter, thank you for being with us. Also, Ian Lee, who is live with us in Seoul. Ian, thanks to you as well. And with that, we'll take another short break. We'll have more on our breaking story, Hurricane.